switching up, gotta get them out. Made me sick as hell, fucking do it by myself. Man, I wish you well. Us at the block is a light show. I'm with the mob and we don't move polite. I put 100 G's in a ledger for a sense of security. It's right, okay, chopping up the beat, I'm a psycho. I share my pain and it gave me a life. I put my beef with the odds to the side, yeah, I showed them mercy.
I got this light on my chest like I'm Iron Man. Been a beast since they let me out the lion's den. You peep the watch, it's starting to look like it's my time again. It's a few with chosen golden boy, little baby, I am him. This shit ain't always what it seems. Swear these little niggas couldn't walk in Mama Queens. Cold world, I'm just blowing smoke into the breeze. Big dog, I'm just brushing off the fleas.
Us at the block is a light show. I'm with the mob and we don't move polite. I put 100 G's in a ledger and it's all for security. It's right, okay, chopping up the beat, I'm a psycho. I share my pain and it gave me a life. I put my beef with the odds to the side, yeah, I showed them mercy.
Is what I found. Yeah. Just a little pick me up when I'm down. Yeah, when I'm down. Yeah. It's a good day for a good day. Sending big love in a big way. Yeah, it's a good day for a motherfucking good day. Yeah. Okay, a little bit of Tina, margarita, in a beach chair with my feet up. Yeah, it's a good day for a motherfucking good day. Just a little bit of liquor, that's all I need. Little bit of you time when I'm free. Just a little bit of you and I when the sun goes down tonight. Yeah. What would you do if we had it all wrong? Got what we want, but we still want more, you know. What would you do, yeah? What would you do if it all goes wrong? What would you do if we had it all wrong? Got what we want, but we still want more, you know. What would you do, yeah? What would you do if you got what you wanted? A little bit of luck is what I found. Yeah. Just a little pick me up when I'm down. Yeah. When I'm down. Just a little bit of liquor, that's all I need. Just a little bit of you time when I'm free. Just a little bit of you and I when the sun goes down tonight.
Hey, pipe up, Hood Rich.
Doing something different, had to switch it up. Turned up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. Doing something different, had to switch it up. Turned up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck.
Taysom Hill picks up the Saints first down, still going. Wow. I don't care if you let how step. I don't care if you let how rip. I don't care if you let how step. I don't care if you let how rip. I got sauce, I got flavor. Getting all this paper. I got sauce, I got flavor. Getting all this paper. Plain Jane Paddock on my motherfucking wrist. They notice every time when I walk up in this bitch. Hustle, walk up in this bitch. Keep my Glock up in this bitch. Hustle, walk up in this bitch. Keep my Glock up in this bitch. I try to Carr going to throw it, looking in zone, and he's got Malik Stanley. There's your first touchdown for the Bulldogs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pigskin Mafia Podcast, Conference USA 2023 Football Preview. I'm your host, TJ Riddell. Man, we got a doubleheader tonight. Me and Jamal will come on later tonight, and we'll discuss a little bit about Twitch and Baby Gronk and some other details. But first, we're gonna have this little podcast. I say little because there's only 9 teams in this conference alone. 2 of them are up-and-coming FCS level caliber teams that just bumped up into the FBS level. And those 2 teams are Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State. And they have 2 more that have just came in. They're on the independent scene. And I gotta say, Liberty and New Mexico State, they had a pretty good season last year, but we'll see how they do in this conference, this juggernaut of a conference. Good God, I do I even call it that? Because man, it's pretty fucking awful. Let's be honest. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and get started here. And I'm going to start off with this college right here. They have they have not had luck as of late. And that's the FIU Golden Panthers. This team, they have gotten rid of coaches left and right. They have just not been a good football team as of late. The Florida International Golden Panthers. Now, shout out to JMO for finding that logo. I had never seen that logo before for Florida International. And I should know that was their I should have known that was their logo, because that is a fucking sick logo, by the way. But jeez, man, what a fucking logo. But they have interesting uniform combinations too, because they share they pretty much share South Beach with Miami, the Hurricanes, their older brother. But let's talk about FIU for a second. 2022, the record was 4-8 with a 2-6 Conference USA record. So they've been in the Conference USA for a while now. And their second year head man, Mike McIntyre, he's only coached 1 season with the Golden Panthers, obviously. I mean, realistically, this schedule is very menacing. I could see them being decent. I could see them being horrible. But let's go ahead and talk about them for a second. First, we have Louisiana Tech going into Louisiana Tech, and then they'll play 2 home games in September to take on Maine and the North Texas Mean Green. Jesus, you okay back there? Then they will travel to UConn to take on Jim Mora Jr. and the UConn Huskies, who are rumored to go to the Big 12. So that should be pretty fucking interesting. And then they will play at home against the new up-and-comers in the conference, Liberty. Liberty is a independent school, like I said earlier. And then they will travel to New Mexico State after a bye week. And then they'll take on UTEP at home. And then they'll travel to Sam Houston State to take on the Bearcats. And then they'll play at home against Jacksonville State. In November 11th, after a bye week, they'll travel to Middle Tennessee to take on the Blue Raiders. Weird fucking name. November 18th, they will travel to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks of Arkansas, and then they'll finish off their season at home, taking on the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Listen, I don't know how well this FIU team's going to do. Honestly, this was probably going to be the hardest fucking conference for me to evaluate because there's so many new teams in this conference. And, I mean, they always beat each other up. They're always inconsistent. But we'll see how it goes. So let's go ahead and talk about the ceiling, the floor, and the prediction. And before I forget, again, the recruit ranking is 93. I'm not going to mention transfer portal because most of these teams on this fucking list in this conference, they are not even worth being ranked on the transfer portal because they don't have enough commits. So, let's talk about the ceiling, the floor, and the overall predictions here. All right, so ceiling. You got 7-5 for the ceiling. The floor, 1-11. Overall prediction, 3-9 with a 2-6 record. I just don't have any expectations for the Florida International Golden Panthers this season. I just don't see them being a very good football team this season. This might be Mike's last season with the FIU Golden Panthers. They were good at one point as a group of 5, but I don't know what the fuck. I really don't know what the fuck's going on with them. But moving on to the next team. This team is actually an FCS level. They were actually pretty damn good last season. 9-2 with a 5-0 record in their conference. They had a 3-game win streak last season. Their head coach is actually Rich Rodriguez. Familiar name. He used to coach Michigan and pretty much fucked up Michigan when he was coaching there. I'm talking about the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Oh, yeah. A lot of trademark and a lot of copyright issues going on there, South Carolina. Just kidding. But Jacksonville State, 2022, they were 9-2 with a 5-0 record in their conference, the Ohio Valley Conference. JMO is very familiar with the Ohio Valley Conference. I am not. All I know is that they are FCS level. But let's talk about their schedule here. In the August game, they will take on UTEP at home. Their first home game and first conference game, they will take on UTEP. And then September 2nd, they will take on East Tennessee State. You know, I don't know much about East Tennessee State, but I expect Jacksonville State to play well against them. Then they'll travel to Coastal Carolina to take on the Chanticleers, which Jamie Chadwell, which we'll talk about him here in a little bit, he used to coach Coastal Carolina. And then they'll have a bye week. Then they'll take on Eastern Michigan. And then they'll have two straight road games. 5 days later, they got to take on the Sam Houston State Bearcats in Huntsville, Texas. And then they'll travel to Middle Tennessee State to take on the Blue Raiders. A lot of people are going over there. And then 6 days later, they'll take on Liberty. The Flames will be traveling to Jacksonville State. And then they'll take on Western Kentucky at home. And then they'll have 2 road games after that, taking on FIU. And then they'll travel to South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. So, yeah, the Battle of the Gamecocks, the Cocky Bowl, the Cock Bowl. Wow. So much you can say about them. Be sure to put hashtag Cock Bowl for November 4th, Jacksonville State taking on South Carolina. Battle of the Gamecocks, the Gamecock Bowl or the Cock Bowl, whatever you want to say. But anyways, they'll take a bye week. They'll take a bye week, and they'll take on Louisiana Tech, and they'll finish off the season against New Mexico State at New Mexico State at Las Cruces. Now, I don't have a whole lot of expectations out of Jacksonville State. Their recruit ranking is shit, 163. And like I said, the transfer portal ranking, they're all tied except for one team, and I'll mention that team later on. Due to lack of transfer portal commits. But let's go ahead and move on to the ceiling, the floor, and the prediction for Jacksonville State. Now, I really don't have a whole lot of expectations out of this team because they are an FCS team moving up. But we've seen it before with Liberty, Coastal Carolina, UTSA, Texas State, not that much. UMass, kinda. They gave Texas A&M a fight last year. Appalachian State. Teams like that, they bump up to the FCS level and they exceed expectations. So maybe Jacksonville State will do good. Maybe they'll do horrible. We'll see. But for my ceiling, I have them at 7-5. My floor, 1-11. My overall prediction, 2-10. Like I said, I really don't have a whole lot of expectations for Jacksonville State. I really do hope they bring in a lot of good competition against the rest of the Conference USA, but we will figure that out. Yeah, so looks like we do have somebody in the chat right now. Lady Medusa. She asked, when is Alabama going to be covered? We have the schedules out on the PMP social medias. So, yeah, tune into that. But we're going to talk about Liberty, the next team we're going to be talking about. The Flames. They have took college football up by storm. They beat Baylor several years ago. I am very impressed with the way this football program has risen. Literally a fucking flame. 2022, though, I call this a down year. They were independent, so they weren't associated to any conference. They were 8-5 last year, but their head coach left, and they have a new head man. He actually coached over at Coastal Carolina. Jamie Chadwell, probably the winningest coach at fucking Coastal Carolina. Let's be honest. Coach Grayson McCall, and I have a lot of expectations out of Liberty in this conference right now. I think that Liberty's going to do well in this conference. Why? Easy schedule, easy opponents. I don't see them struggling that much. There's going to be some competition at Western Kentucky, at fucking or taking on New Mexico State and Middle Tennessee. You know, it's going to be a gauntlet between those four teams, I believe, in this conference. But we'll see. We'll see what I have. But the first game of the season, they'll be traveling to Bowling Green to take on the Falcons. By the way, Bowling Green has some of the worst color combinations I have ever seen in my entire life. Shit brown with fucking shit orange. Literally. And then they will have their first home game and first conference game, their conference debut against a debuting New Mexico State, who was also independent last season. And then they will travel to Buffalo and FIU in a 12-day stretch. Jesus Christ. So 12 days out, they'll take on Buffalo and FIU on the road, and then they'll be at home against Sam Houston State, who is also debuting in this conference, and then they'll travel to Jacksonville State, who is also debuting in this conference. So there you have it right there. First 6 games, 3 out of the 6 games, you have all debuting teams. And then here's probably the toughest stretch of games that you have right here. Middle Tennessee State at home on October 17th, and then October 24th, they'll take on Western Kentucky. And then November stretch, Louisiana Tech at home, Old Dominion at home, UMass at home. I believe Liberty and Old Dominion's becoming a rivalry, or it is a rivalry. If you guys know about that rivalry, let me know in the comments or whatever. But I need to do more research on that game because they play just about every year. Just like how Old Dominion and Virginia Tech's playing every year. And somehow Old Dominion beats them. Which I'll talk about that more once we talk about Old Dominion. And then a week later, they'll take on UMass. And then they'll travel to El Paso to take on UTEP in the last game of the season. Now, I could see this being a really good season or a mediocre season for Liberty. Liberty is one of those teams that you can't really count out. You can't really say they're going to be bad. And they have a fucking good coach on their team. And it's probably going to be similar play style for Liberty's offense. But we'll see. Let's go ahead and hit up the ceiling, the floor, and the prediction as I talk about their recruiting rank, which I think is very, 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 very awful for a recruit rank. 111. I expected a lot higher for Liberty, but geez, man. I thought they would do better, but also, again, one of the teams that does not have a transfer portal ranking. But here's the ceiling, the floor, and overall prediction. My ceiling is 12-0. Wow. You have a team in the fucking Conference USA at 12-0? Yes, I do, because their fucking schedule is cake. It is cake. It's about as cake as fucking Georgia's schedule. Maybe even better. Maybe even better. But my floor though is 7-5. I could see where there's a lot of games that are trap games. I could see where there's games that they can have trouble with. I just don't see Liberty going under 500 or under 7-5. But my overall prediction, 8-4, 5-3 record. I could see them losing to Middle Tennessee State. I could see them losing to New Mexico State. I could see them losing to Western Kentucky. Why? It's a conference where they beat the fuck up or beat each other the fuck up, you know? I don't get this conference. I don't get this I don't get these conferences, these group of 5 conferences like Conference USA. But let's move on to the next team. This team is a Conference USA team. Louisiana Tech, coached by Sonny Cumbie, who is under the Mike Leach era, under the Mike Leach tree. His first season was not that good for Louisiana Tech. Do I expect Louisiana Tech to be good this season? Maybe a little better, but we'll find out because I actually do have a transfer portal ranking and a recruit ranking for them. The recruit ranking is 77th, but their transfer portal is 70th. I don't see anything good about that. But yeah, so as I'm trying to fight my dog a little bit, but let's talk about their last season. They went 3-9 with a 2-6 conference record. They did not do well under Sonny Cumbie, but I could see them doing a lot better. Jesus Christ, she is violent. God damn. But anyway, getting sidetracked from the dog throwing shit behind me. So Louisiana Tech, their schedule. They'll take on FIU week 1, August 26th, and then September 2nd. They have to travel to fucking Dallas to take on SMU, who I think is going to be a fucking good football team. Week 3, this should be a win. Northwestern State. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't think that Louisiana Tech's going to lose to Northwestern State. If they do, Louisiana Tech sucks. Week 4 of their schedule, they'll take on North Texas. Week 5, they travel to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers, which I think that could be troublesome for Louisiana Tech. Then week 6, they'll travel to UTEP to take on the Miners of University of Texas El Paso. 6 days after getting beat up by the Cornhuskers. October 5th, they'll take on Western Kentucky. 5 days later, they'll travel to Middle Tennessee State to take on the Blue Raiders. I don't understand the scheduling. Like, can you make it to where they don't play 5 games in the fucking schedule? It makes no fucking sense. And then 2 weeks later, 14 days later, 2 weeks later, they'll take on New Mexico State at home. And then November 4th, they'll travel to Liberty. Then they'll play their last home game against Sam Houston State, November 11th. And then November 18th, they will travel to Jacksonville State. This is a fucking horrible schedule. Like, why would you put 5 days away from a game? Like, I understand 6, I understand 8, but why in the fuck 5? You know, you're prepping 3 days of practice for a team that's possibly going to win the conference? Ain't no way that's going to happen. Go ahead and change it to ceiling, floor, and prediction there, JMO, because the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs are not going to be that good this season, in my opinion. So, this conference just beats the hell out of each other, and I don't understand it at all. However, I think they are going to be better than last year. Not a whole lot better, but they are going to be better. Ceiling, 5-7. Floor, 2-10. Overall prediction, 4-8, 3-5. Easier conference opponents than fucking UTSA, North Texas. You know, it helps them out. It does, but yeah, barely scraping by. But I just don't see Louisiana Tech being any good, especially with this conference with Liberty, New Mexico State. UTEP might be a little bit better this season. Who knows? Western Kentucky, Florida International. I mean, I just don't see Louisiana Tech being that good. Now we'll move on to an actual team that might do some damage in this conference. Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. All right. Well, this team last season went to a bowl game. They went 8-5 last season, 4-4 in the conference. They have the longest tenured coach in the conference, Rick Stockstill. You know, he's been a very inconsistent coach as far as winning, but he has a 1-9 and 1-3 record with the Blue Raiders. I have seen 10-4, 10-4, 5-7, 5-7, 3-9, 3-9, 2-10, 8-5, 8-5, 9-4s. I mean, it is so sporadic, it's not even funny. But this team has a tough schedule. probably the toughest schedule I've seen yet in this conference. Like, they are going to 2 SEC schools already. In week 1, they travel to Alabama. That'll be a cakewalk for the Crimson Tide. They'll travel to Missouri. That might be a trick game for Missouri, or a trap game for Missouri, because Middle Tennessee State's actually a pretty dope team. Then they'll play their first home game against Murray State, which
That's
the Racers
gonna be a dub. That's gonna be a dub for Murray.
Yeah, they're gonna race the Racers. Come on now.
That's also, I want to point out, that's also a rivalry game. That's a big ass rivalry. So
I did not know that.
Yep, Middle Tennessee, they were OVC rivals. So expect
Wow.
that to be a bloodbath.
Okay, the OVC graduate, but
Not graduate, but
no. That's
But, yeah,
crazy. I did not know that. Holy
Yeah.
shit! You learn something new every day, even
Yep.
if you're the college football guru. God damn.
literally 30 minutes down the road. That's what Murray was to us. So
Yeah. So, Blue Raiders, Racers, they're gonna have a rivalry game, September 16th, and then they'll take on Colorado State, September 23rd. Here we go again. 5-day stretch. They'll take on Western Kentucky at Western Kentucky. I don't get that. That's probably gonna be a loss right there.
at the Hilltopper Stadium, yeah. At Bowling Green, yeah, that's gonna be a loss.
Yeah. Then they'll face Jacksonville State and Louisiana Tech in a 6-day stretch at home, which I find that okay. Then they'll travel to Liberty a week later after facing Louisiana Tech. Excuse me. Then they'll travel to Las Cruces to take on the New Mexico State Aggies. I don't have any problems with those Aggies because they don't talk shit to us. November 4th, they'll travel to New Mexico State. Then November 11th, they'll have their home game before their last home game against FIU, and then their last home game will be against UTEP. And then they will have their last game of the season against Sam Houston State at Huntsville, Texas. I mean, this could go good, or this could be a mediocre season for Middle Tennessee State. They are ranked 120th in recruiting. Fuck. Another bad ranking in the recruiting. Let's go ahead and talk about the fucking sealing the floor in the overall prediction, because I can't really discuss their recruiting. It's hard enough when you got Memphis and Tennessee to battle, in Vanderbilt in the recruiting races. I mean, they have a better shot at Vanderbilt more than anything. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about their ceiling, their floor, and their overall prediction here. I have them at an 8-4 ceiling, a 5-7 floor, and the overall prediction for the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, 7-5 with a 6-2 record. Possibly only losing to Western Kentucky and Liberty. Now, it's a strong conference record, but a terrible fucking overall record as far as win percentage. I do think that Middle Tennessee State's going to be a decent team out of the Conference USA, but we'll just see. Next team we're going to talk about is a new team in the conference. We got 3 teams now that are brand new into this conference. This team is the most west out of anybody, I believe, in this conference. And that is the New Mexico State Aggies. Last year they went to in 2022 they went 7-6 overall. They went to a bowl game, which is very surprising for those that do not know anything about New Mexico State. Usually they get their asses kicked every year by Appalachian State or Texas State or anybody else. But they actually had a pretty good season last year, 7-6. Jerry Kill, he had a very interesting story, which I'll talk about that probably in the next podcast, which will be live right after this one. He had a lot of fucking problems, like health problems, back in 2006. And to be able to coach today is just unbelievable. Like, I was reading up on his story a little bit. I didn't really catch up to it, but man, it ended up being fucking. He ended up having fucking cancer. Like, geez, man, I don't know how you could coach after having cancer and going through fucking surgery after surgery after surgery until getting it done. But whatever he did, it worked out in his favor, and he's becoming a pretty decent coach over at New Mexico State. Now 7-6 last season. They have a pretty good schedule this year. But they do have a very menacing ending with going to Auburn, which is going to be a tough one. Not going to lie. Auburn's going to be decent this year. Do I think they'll beat Alabama, though? That'll be on the SEC preview. So stay tuned for that one. So their schedule. They start off with UMass at home. Then they have Western Illinois at home. They'll have 2 straight road games to take on Liberty and Hawaii. And then they'll have 2 straight home games against FIU and Sam Houston State. Then they'll have 2 straight road games again, traveling to El Paso to take on the Miners. And then they'll travel to Louisiana Tech to take on the Bulldogs. And then they'll have 1 home game against Middle Tennessee State. Then they'll have that road stretch for 2 weeks to take on Western Kentucky at Hilltopper Stadium, and then they'll take on Auburn in Auburn. So that's going to be an interesting matchup for New Mexico State. I'm not saying interesting as in they'll be competitive against them. I think they might get smoked. And then they'll take on Jacksonville State at the end of the season. At home, senior day, senior night, whatever. So their recruit ranking is a step. I'm not joking when I say this. A step or a rank above Middle Tennessee State, 119. Middle Tennessee State, 120. Okay, that's not bad at all. But let's go ahead and talk about the ceiling, the floor, and the prediction for these New Mexico State Aggies. Now, they're coming into a new conference, a weaker conference. They were in the Western Athletic Conference before it got demoted to FCS level. And they were also in the Sun Belt, I believe, at one point, and then became independent because they were so fucking trash, man. And then they're becoming a decent football team. But here's my ceiling, floor, overall prediction. Ceiling 8-4. My floor 4-8. Overall prediction 6-6. I really do think they'll be bowl eligible this season. Especially with a 4-4 record in the conference. I don't think they're going to be that good. I just think they'll be competitive. So, next team and the last team that's just joining the Conference USA, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in the Sam Houston State Bearcats, aka the 2021 Spring FCS National Champions. Last season they went 5-4 and did not play any conference games due to COVID, I guess. I don't know. I did not know that was still a thing, to be honest. I thought COVID restrictions were done and COVID was just done with. Oh, nice job on the throwback there, JMO. I fucking love that throwback. The state of Texas with the Bearcat. But yeah, they have a pretty menacing schedule right there. First of all, they have to travel to Mormontown to take on BYU. Then they have to play at home against Air Force. Then they have to travel to Houston. That's already 0-3. Their only possible win, which is a 5-game stretch, taking on Jacksonville State. And then they'll play at Liberty, play at Las Cruces to take on New Mexico State. You know, they might actually shock some people. I don't know. Then they'll take on FIU at home, and then they'll take on UTEP at home. They have 3 straight home games here. And then they take on Kennesaw State at home. And then they'll travel to Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, and then they'll finish off the season at home against Middle Tennessee State. Okay. I know a kid that lives down here in Corpus Christi. He actually he didn't just commit, but he committed to Sam Houston State, and he will be playing for Sam Houston State this year. Lonnie Adkism, shout out to you. Young man, I've had the privilege to call your game, and I think that you're one of the best Texas wide receivers to be going into Sam Houston. Very competitive school. They gave Texas A&M a lot of trouble last season, but ended up getting shut out by the Aggies for Texas A&M because they do have a very tough defense, but horrible offense last season. But Sam Houston State, I really don't have a whole lot of expectations, just like I said about Jacksonville State. I actually think they're going to start off horrible in their debut in the Conference USA. But let's go ahead and talk about their ceiling, floor, and prediction. But they do have a good recruit ranking for just stepping into the FBS, which is a 95. One of the highest rankings in the Conference USA. So, as we get ready to talk about the Sam Houston State Bearcats ceiling, floor, and prediction, I just am very, very glad they are finally getting recognized to be a FBS school. But here we are. Ceiling, floor, and overall prediction. Bearcat fans, Bearcat Nation, don't get pissed off at me because I have y'all so low. I just don't have a whole... And it's not the team's fault. It's not Coach Casey Keeler, who has a very, very impressive record at Sam Houston State. I just think the level of competition is going to be a lot different than the FCS level. Casey Keeler does have an 85-27 overall record, and he is going in his 10th season. But I think he's going to have a lot of trouble, especially in that 3-game stretch against BYU, Air Force, and Houston. 2 out of those 3 games on the road, so that's going to be tough. Ceiling, 4-8. Floor, 0-12. Overall prediction, 1-11 with an 0-8 conference record. I just don't see them really doing that much in the Conference USA. Not yet. They will be a good football team in the next couple of years. Give it some time. I like Sam Houston State. I really respect them, but this overall prediction is menacing to Bearcat fans, but I do have a lot of respect for Sam Houston State. But yeah, so next team is the University of Texas El Paso Miners. All righty. Dana Dimmel, who has been there for 6 years. His fucking, holy shit, his fucking record there is 17-40. 17-40. And they still have him as a head coach. He's probably going to get fired mid-season, probably. They're probably just filling him out because, I don't know, maybe he could be a good football coach. I don't know. But what do I know? I'm just a fucking football guru. So UTEP. Last season they went 5-7 with a conference record 3-5. Good news is they don't have UTSA or North Texas to worry about. Bad news is they have Liberty and New Mexico State to worry about. You know, and UTEP and New Mexico State, I do believe that's a rivalry as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, UTEP and New Mexico State fans. But I do believe that is a rivalry. But let's go ahead and talk about their schedule. Week 1, they will travel to Jacksonville State to take on the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State. Week 2, they will play at home against Incarnate Word, which is a very good team out of San Antonio in the FCS level. Week 3, they will travel to Northwestern. Could be a win, actually. Now looking at it, could be a win. Week 4, at Arizona. That's going to be an interesting game. I think Arizona's going to be a little bit better this season, but we'll see. Week 5, we got UTEP at home against the Rebels of UNLV. Week 6, they will be at home against Louisiana Tech. Week 7, or in this case, week 8 or so, they will be traveling to Florida International, Coral Gables, Florida, to take on the Golden Panthers. And then October 18th, they'll take on New Mexico State at home. And then October 25th, the last October game they'll be at Huntsville, Texas, take on the Sam Houston State Bearcats. And then November 4th, they'll play at home against Western Kentucky, take a bye week. Then they'll travel to take on the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. And they'll finish off the season at home against Liberty. Oof. That's all I gotta say. Oof. Let's go ahead and talk about their ceiling, floor, and prediction. Their fucking recruit ranking is god awful. 130. 130. Probably one worse than that is Jacksonville State at 163, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yeah, here's the ceiling, the floor, and the god dang prediction for the UTEP Miners. My ceiling for them, 7-5. My floor, 3-9. An overall prediction, 5-7. I don't have any good expectations for UTEP. I never do. I never think they're going to be a good football team. Never, ever, ever. So, 5-7 with a 3-5 conference record. Last team we're going to talk about, though. This team could possibly steal the whole fucking conference. And that is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. This team, they have a really good coach, Tyson Helton. He has a 32-21 record in his 5 years at Western Kentucky. They have really played. They've had some fun fucking bowl games that I've seen over the last few seasons with the Hilltoppers. They were 9-5 with a 6-2 record last season. I think the only bad thing about Western Kentucky I could say is they got to play against Ohio State at the Horseshoe, and
they might surprise you though.
They may surprise us because Western Kentucky, they are no slouch by any means. So week 1 they will take on South Florida. Week 2 they'll take on Houston Christian. Also, another kid down here in Alice, Texas, Cutter Stewart. He actually committed to Houston Christian. So, shout out to Cutter Stewart. And then here's the road games. The 2 straight road games: Ohio State and then at Troy. That one is going to be a fun game to watch. Then they'll play at home against Middle Tennessee State. Then they'll play at Louisiana Tech. And then 12 days later, they'll take on Jacksonville State at Jacksonville State. And then 9 days, or is that 11? I can't really count. Okay. Yeah, so I can't count for today. For the life of me. October 28th, Liberty will be playing at their house. That's gonna be a key game in the Conference USA. Then they'll travel to UTEP to take on the Miners. They'll play at home against New Mexico State. Then they'll finish off their home games against Sam Houston State. And then their last game, they'll travel to Coral Gables to take on Florida International. So okay. So Western Kentucky has a horrible recruit record as well, 136. That's worse than UTEP. So that might be a cause of concern. But I genuinely think Western Kentucky is the favorite to win this conference. It's either Western Kentucky or Liberty or Middle Tennessee State. One of those three. New Mexico State, they could surprise us. But let's talk about their ceiling, their floor, and their prediction. And I really do think that this team is going to be a legitimate threat in this conference. And they could honestly go 3-1 in the first 4 games. And this is gonna be a very, very interesting schedule. But ceiling 11-1. Floor, though, I have them at a 4-8 because they could be lacking in some areas this season. But overall prediction 8-4 with a 6-2 record. I just think that they're going to be one of the top dogs in the Conference USA this season. They're going to be a good fucking football team. So there you have it, the Conference USA 2023 preview. I really enjoyed talking about these slapdicks of the slapdick of a conference. The next conference we're going to talk about is the Mid-American Conference. Probably one of the oldest conferences in college football. Hasn't been changed. There's been new members on there, but that conference hasn't been changed. But yeah, my final thoughts on the Conference USA, though, I really don't expect a whole lot out of the Conference USA. I mean, look at the teams that just left: Rice, UTSA, North Texas. I mean, those teams, UTSA, with the exception of UTSA, they're mediocre. Rice and North Texas, they tend to be mediocre at times. So, with that being said, I do want to go over something real quick before we go. We will have another podcast right after this. So we will discuss some Twitch controversy that I have no idea. JMO will go over that. And I will introduce him on the next pod here in a minute. We'll talk about Baby Gronk, how I feel about the whole situation. I kind of shed some light about it yesterday. But I'll give you my full in-depth thoughts on that. Then me and J-Mo are going to shoot the shit a little bit about football, about life or something like that. I don't know. It's just going to be an open podcast. That's what it is. This is going to be the first time that we do this on this podcast. So it'll be the first episode of TJ's Talk Box. So that was an idea by JMO, and it's a great idea. He's came up with a lot of good ideas ever since he first joined us. So I couldn't be more grateful for this guy. And looks like Billy wants to fight for some reason while I'm trying to talk on the mic again. It's every time I'm on the pod, she's just like this. So I don't know what she's sniffing right there. There ain't nothing right there, girl. So yeah. Stay tuned. We will have some exciting news to talk about in regards of what's to come. So we'll talk about the pod or the full Pigskin Mafia podcast in general. Talk about plans. Talk about what's going to happen maybe in the next several months. Come up with video concepts, and maybe one day me, JMO, and K-Dub will all meet up together all at once in person, and we'll create a vlog. And I have some video ideas, and I already discussed Caleb about one that, quite frankly, I'm not too excited about, but I think it needs to be done because I think it'd bring in a lot of good viewership because it's funny. And people like to see others suffer, unfortunately. So, with that being said, we'll be right back. We'll get off of this pod, and then we'll go on to the next pod. We'll probably give it a 5-minute break, JMO, and then we'll switch on to the next pod. Or, yeah, for 10. Yeah. So, we'll go for 10 minutes, take a little breather. Because I have a lot of air in my head for some reason. But yeah, we'll have a little 10-minute break. Maybe Billy needs some more food. I gave her 2 cups of food. I gave her 1 cup. Usually I give her 2 when I'm home. So, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, she's the rent collector. Goddamn shit. But, yeah. Over here biting me and shit. Well, not biting me, but nibbling. She's a puppy, so she gonna get what she wants. So, but thank you guys for watching this episode of the PMP Live. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this, and there's gonna be more content, more live content, and there might be breaking news. Will DeAndre Hopkins find a team? Will Dalvin Cook find a team between the Broncos or the Dolphins? Mike McDaniel said something about that. I kind of want to shed some light on that a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit, because all he said was, I wasn't born yesterday, basically. So, Mike McDaniel, he is a fucking funny ass fucking coach. Like, he's one of those he's kind of like a Mike Leach, but a younger iteration, where he's into like fucking video games and shit, high quality shoes and shit. I fucking love that guy.
Good man.
Yeah. Like, he pulls up to fucking Celtics games. I mean, normally coaches that are coaching in Miami will not go to Boston, but Mike McDaniels does not care. So stay tuned for the next pod. We'll give it a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back. Switch on to the next pod. It won't be on this one. We'll cut this one off, and then we'll go on to another one. So stay tuned, and goodbye and good night. Bang. We are the PMP. And we'll be right back.
Disappear like David